Living a healthy life post-transplant can often involve a number of lifestyle changes, many of which involve something to do with your diet. That is what you eat, what you drink, what you intake on a regular basis, and that can have a huge impact as to how well you feel, as well as how successful the rest of your life actually can be. So today, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 tips that I used along the way that really helped me to make those changes, in spite of the fact I would assume be eating a chili dog every meal. Number 1, make slow incremental changes in your diet. If you try to turn your back on everything you've ever eaten in your life that's unhealthy cold turkey, you're probably not going to be very successful at that. Just take your time with this, make slow incremental changes. Take one meal that you used to eat. For example, I used to eat a lot of chili dogs, cheeseburgers, and pizzas. Replace that one meal with baked chicken or a salad. Just make your progress as you go. As a matter of fact, that's part of what I did all along the way. Is sometimes if I'd fall off the wagon and eat that greasy cheeseburger, grease dripping off my elbows, I love that. If I ate that for lunch, I would be really cautious to make sure whatever I ate for dinner, we call it supper in the South, that I really made a concerted effort to make sure I ate that baked chicken or that salad or any other good selection in that. That's what I did. Oftentimes, a lot of the changes I made in the beginning were slow and incremental, as in I came off of the Cokes and the Sprites and the sweet teas and started to replace that slowly with just a simple glass of water, a bottle of water. Make those slow incremental changes and you'll be much more successful in that, and you'll avoid a ton of frustration. Number 2, don't count your failures. Okay, you're going to fall off the wagon. You're going to have that day where you totally intended to do great, but at the end of that day, you're eating all kind of stuff that you had no business eating. Tons of processed food, tons of other things that are involved, salt, sugars, all that can get out of whack. And most of the times, at least I do, you will feel that almost immediately, and you'll pay the price for that. But if you make those mistakes, and you will, don't count those mistakes. If you're going to keep a record of what you eat, write down on a tablet or keep up within your phone by some kind of a meal plan or whatever, but write down the times when you do great. Give yourself an A+ on everything, and when you have those failures, don't let them get you frustrated. Just keep on going. Don't sweat it. Don't worry about it, and I promise you'll do better. Number 3, this is probably very important to you. Get yourself an accountability partner. Get someone in your life, whether it's your spouse, another family member, a friend, whoever may be familiar, or at least could become familiar with what you're required to do or what you're supposed to do. Get them involved and have them to kind of check up on you. Now, they don't need to breathe down your neck. That'll frustrate you as well. They just simply need to be there and be present at times when you can report to them and say, okay, look, I got to admit to you, I ate 3 large pizzas for lunch today. I feel like trash anyway, but I need to do better. What do you suggest I do the next time I have an opportunity to eat? What do you suggest the next meal might be? Help them to hold you accountable. And many times, if you're like I am, it was my wife. She already knew. She sat down in those transplant education classes, particularly in the ones with a dietitian and such, and she would look at me and say, you're not going to eat that. You don't need that, or if you're going to eat that, you only need half of that. She would hold me accountable. And at the time, it was frustrating, particularly I was on steroids and stayed angry most of the time, but it was frustrating, but it really did help. It made a huge difference. So get yourself an accountability partner. Number 6, read food labels. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's processed, if it comes straight out of a can or out of a store like that, more than likely to some extent it's processed, and you need to know what is in that. That's not to say that you don't ever crack open a can of vegetable soup, but please understand that a can of vegetable soup is much different than what you might call homemade vegetable soup. There's so many additives, so many things in there, such a much higher level of sugars and salts and fats and you name it. In anything that is processed, you have to be very careful. And more times than not, your transplant center will encourage you and discourage you really from eating anything like that, telling you to avoid that altogether. You're probably not going to do very well at that, especially in a pinch. But when you do, just be aware of what you're eating. I know for me, it was as simple as the condiments, the extras that I like to put on something, ketchups and mayonnaise, mustard, salad dressings, all of that. Seems like no big deal. Seems like just a dot or two here and there doesn't matter. And that's probably the better way to go. Use a small amount, but look at those labels. You'll find so many things in there that really ramp up your calories, or again, your sugars, your salts. They're just not worth adding many times. Do other things to flavor your foods and really make sure that you read those labels. Number 5, very much related to some of the previous, be patient, but be persistent, okay? You're going to have failures. You're going to have times when you're going to be upset, disappointed, aggravated at yourself or what you might stuff in your hole. But at the same time, you got to be patient with yourself. It's going to take time. It's going to take experience. It's going to take all the things we've named above kind of working together as a whole to get you through this. But do not give up. Keep up with your persistent action, saying to yourself, at least in your mind, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do this. This is going to make a difference. It's going to be worth it in the long run. Being patient and persistence makes the biggest difference in this area. And here's a bonus tip. If you stayed this long in the video, comment below and say, hey, I'm still here. Here's your bonus tip. Eat a snack, okay? I pride myself, and always have, in the fact that I just don't snack that much during the day. Now, I eat a midnight snack sometimes, I'll admit, but I never really eat a lot in between meals. I just don't. I'm not ever been attracted to eating snacks very often. However, that is in some senses been my great downfall. Although you're not adding extra calories necessarily if you skip the snack, at the same time, you're causing yourselves problems. If you go into every single meal starving to death, as we say it, hungry or hangry in some sense, you're going to eat way too much. You're better off pausing in the middle of the day, even if it's eating something as unhealthy as a bag of chips, a small bag, but a bag of chips. You're better off pausing to do that than in turn getting down to your meal and eating something crazy or eating a huge amount, overloading your plate, stuffing yourself. You're going to pay for it in that way. You'd be better off to eat a snack, and that'll help you to stay on this path. I hope some or any of this has helped you. If it has, please like this video. Comment below. I'd love to hear your suggestions. How did you make it through this process, or how would you suggest doing that? I'm sure many of you out there are actually qualified to speak on the subject, much more than I am. I would love to hear from you. In addition to that, if you want to check out other videos related to this or any other subject, there are over 1,000. Go ahead and click one of those that pops up on the screen about now.